Welcome to the end of season wrap-up video for season 4 of the VeloTour. We've just finished the Tour de France, so it's time to look at the final team standings and crown a champion for season 4. So without further ado, let's go in and see which team has topped the standings for season 4. And to nobody's surprise, it's the Kyoto team managed by Ali, who has claimed the title in season 4. The first two-time champion manager of the VeloTour is Ali, back-to-back seasons. A historic accomplishment, and Kyoto were dominant throughout the entire season. From the very first stage in Tirreno Adriatico all the way through the Tour de France, they led the standings for all but one day of racing. Only after the Hamburg Side Classics were they eclipsed for a single race by VeloTour, but they reclaimed the lead the very next race and never looked back. Dominant in the classics and in the stage races, a great performance by Kyoto. In second place against the odds, it was Euskaltel Euskadi on the back of their stage racing dominance. They won 3 of the stage races, including both Grand Tours. At one point before the Giro d'Italia, they were in 10th place in the team standings, all the way up to 2nd, and ending up giving Kyoto a little bit of a fright in the Tour de France, finished about 1,000 points behind. AlphaTauri disappointed in their 3rd place. They had such high hopes coming into this season. Dzac finished 3rd in Season 2, then 2nd in Season 3, and hoped to take the final leap in Season 4. Had a good team, just ended up falling a little bit short. But they had some great highs in the classics, especially with Luis Sancho. In 4th place was VeloTour at one point in 1st. They spent most of the season in the top 3, only slipping down in the Tour de France. It was Jay's debut season in the VeloTour. His first draft started poorly in the first round, some questionable choices, but the next 4 or 5 picks really hit home. His team picked up a lot of victories, they were great in the sprints, and Chung Lingshen really carried them in the stage races. 5th place was Natalia, that's Will's team. The team started very poorly in Season 4, languishing in the basement, but in the final third of the season they made a huge charge at the leaderboard. Kelvin Moore, Rodolfo Lucci, and Josephine Uribaia carrying the team, picking up some crucial victories and delivering them all the way up to 5th place after a dominant 7-stage win performance in the Tour de France. Hackett in 6th were middle of the pack pretty much the whole season, led mainly by Mario Mazziota and Manuel Navarro. The two-man team kept them in the middle of the pack, but the lack of depth and ability to score points outside of those two really hurt them in their final push for a high finish. Same could be said for Sismic, who got great results from Miroslav Kostra all season. He won the green jersey of the Tour de France and won 5 races. But the lack of ability to score big in the GC of stage races, Carlos Snow not quite able to get it done there, and ending up in 7th place after spending most of the year in 4th or 5th. Doimo pretty much a bottom level team most of the season, picking up some wins here and there, but ending in 8th place, although the team looked pretty good within the race, just not able to get great results. Jupiler in 9th actually defied expectations. We all thought they'd be the worst team. Didn't know if they'd actually win a single race throughout the whole season, but they certainly defied expectations. They are relevant all throughout, saw great aggressive riding from Harold Skavgo. So 9th place for Jupiler, solid result for Grace considering the expectations. Mutual Forstall was the Almonds team down in 10th place. Once again, a low finish for the Almond in the VeloTour. We'll see if he can turn things around in a future season. But the team at least was fun to watch, especially in the classics, and Ichikawa Kitetsu was a surprise as a sprinter. She won a couple races and got 2nd in the green jersey in the Tour. And finally, Castelli in last place. It seems Gus has lost the magic that got him back-to-back runner-up finishes in the first 2 years of the VeloTour, because he's really plummeted towards the bottom of the standings the last 2 seasons. Castelli failing to meet expectations this season, and those weren't that all high to begin with. But Davide Lagana was inconsistent despite his high point totals, and Ugo Zorzi a big disappointment throughout the season. As for the individual standings, the riders who made the VeloTour the big protagonist, we have to start with Jean-Marie Caillou. His heroics in the stage races. It seemed every day of this season he got stronger and stronger. In the Dauphiné, he was pretty quiet but ended up winning the race on the final stage after a dramatic turnaround. The same in the Giro d'Italia, upending Chongling Shen on stage 20 on the Monte-Zoncolan. And then he was simply peerless in the Tour de France, completely dominant in the mountains, pretty strong in the time trials, and he had a top-tier team to support him in the mountains. So the high point total, a result of his performance in the 2 Grand Tours, and probably the leading favorite to win the VeloTour depending on the votes of the managers. Leida, the highest scorer throughout most of the season for Kyoto, a very stable presence for that team, equally strong in the classics, getting results in stage races as well. Luis Sancho of AlphaTauri was electrifying. He didn't score often, but when he did, it was spectacular, winning several classics, a few stages here and there. At one point, the highest score in the season before the Tour de France. Didn't quite meet expectations there, but still a great season. Tutin, the steady stage race rider for Kyoto, in 4th place. He never won a stage race, but he got close in basically all of them. I think the lowest finish he had in any of them was 3rd or 4th. And Mario Mazziotto, the star of the early half of the season, winning the Amstel Gold Race, being the highest scorer for most of the season. And won 2 stages of the Tour de France, so really bookending the season with some great results. Balashkov very consistent in 6th, so was Miroslav Kostra. Then some of the sprinters and other top stage race riders getting up there as well. So now let's go team by team. We'll briefly go through, I won't talk about every single rider, maybe just hit some of the key moments, but see where each of the managers' riders ended up in the final rankings in the season. So we'll go in alphabetical order, if I could talk, excuse me, but we'll start with AlphaTauri. It really starts with Luis Sancho and Yevgeny Balashkov. There was a race with any amount of hills in it. These two were sure to make a big impact. They won 6 races between them. They scored a ton of points, both over 3,000. Certainly the backbone of that team. Heinrich Kromer, I think we expected a bit more in the sprints. He really faded in the end of the season, but he did start strong and got some decent results in the one-day races. Luigi Belle and Adrien Bernard pretty good in the classics. Jeff Cooper, a very good domestique as well. We go from 3rd place to 11th in the team standings. This was Castelli, the team that got last place. Most of their points, around half, being scored by Davide Lagana because he did well in the sprints. Got a couple nice results in one-day races. Ugo Zorzi basically had one good race. He was 2nd in Il Lombardia after his massive solo attack nearly succeeded, but other than that, failed to do basically anything at all in Season 4. Dennis Nsenkamana, quite surprising. He was very active in the breakaways, won the King of the Mountains in the Giro. Elijah Johnson there, the lead-up man for Davide Lagana. He actually had a great season, a bit underrated if you ask me. Rest of the team, not very useful, but they were a decent lead-out for Davide Lagana. They got him in good position, but not always able to finish the job. Next we have Doimo, I think they're in 9th place. Pretty steady team, a number of riders able to score points, but no real superstars on the team able to compete with the more explosive riders. Canale, great in the breakaways, did some work in the classics. He won a mountain stage of the Giro d'Italia from the breakaway, leading scorer in 24th place. Ilyana Pavlova had a few highs in the season, but mostly inconsistent, but certainly ended in spectacular fashion. A brilliant performance in stage 18 of the Tour de France against all the top climbers, winning on Luz Oradidon. Robo Nagasi won a stage at Tirreno Adriatico, and those are all the wins Doimo got this season. Other than that, really just steady, always there in the peloton, always had riders there, just never able to really break through. Then Euskaltel-Euskadi, the strangest team in the peloton because you have 3 spectacular climbers for the stage races, you have 5 riders for the Cobble Classics, and they basically did nothing at all in the hilly races, and the time trials are a bit hit or miss. But it all starts with Jean-Marie Caillou, who won 3 of the stage races, won several mountaintop finishes along the way, certainly carried this team from 10th up to 2nd place in the second half of the season. Rico Rudiger, the super domestique, a key support rider for Jean-Marie Caillou, and he was able to get results for himself along the way. Rode aggressively in Il Lombardia and was 3rd in the Tour de France. Johnny Wouters did well in the sprints for Euskaltel. He won the points jersey of the Giro, got a number of results in classics as well. Then a few nice results here and there in the cobbled races, but really the Cobble Classics team not as dominant as we expected, but they did win the Omloop at Nieuwsblad with Victor Petruskevicius. On to Futura Forestall, they finished second to last, but were more fun to watch than Castelli at least. Roger Lazarescu, a big protagonist in the classics early in the season. He had that near miss in the Omloop at Nieuwsblad, and was in it to win it for the Tour of Flanders, but ended up coming up just short. Next highest score was Ishikawa Kitetsu, the sprinter. We were wondering between Kitetsu and Tosh who'd get the look in the sprints from the leadouts. Kitetsu, more consistent, she picked up 2 stage wins, one in the Benelux Tour and one in the Criterium du Dauphiné. Jamal Safari had one of the biggest highlights of the season, his 140-kilometer breakaway in Paris-Roubaix to win the Monument, one of the signature moments of Season 4. So he didn't do much besides that, but that single individual effort will go down in VeloTour lore. Jonathan Kaiser, a big disappointment. We expected much more in the classics, and Tyrus Tosh got 1 stage win in the Giro, and that's pretty much all he accomplished that season. Next we go to Hackett. We alluded earlier how they were a 2-man team, and that's pretty much true when you look at the scoring. It was all about Matt Ciota and Navarro. Grimsby had a good performance in the Benelux Tour. Odo Schmid was one of the best domestiques in the peloton, but the rest of the team not able to accomplish very much. They did try in some breakaways, and Sergei Ignatieff, a solid climbing teammate for Manuel Navarro. Here's Jupiler, the team that finished in 9th, defying expectations considering how low they were, and that's mostly due to Harold Skavgo, who won Liège-Bastogne-Liège with that late attack. He was aggressive all season, deserving of every point that he scored. Casper Bosmans, the sprinter, won a stage of the Tour de France. Marcel Lefebvre, quite good in the classics, and the rest of the team getting in lots of breakaways. Diana Stephenson did win the King of the Mountains jersey in the Benelux Tour. That's pretty much all they got besides that. Now the team of the champions, Kyoto, and that pretty much starts with Ibai Leida and Hippolyte Touton. They were so consistent. In the classics, Leida was always there. In the stage races, Touton always in the top 3 on GC. Never a race where Kyoto really was out of it except for a few of those sprinters classics. They scored good points in almost every competition, and it shows in the numbers here. Egan Kalas, a great third option, 17th highest score, and he did win the Benelux Tour. Oscar Galati, 2nd in the Tour of Flanders, and a brilliant domestique throughout the season. Yannick Rahova, 2nd in the Benelux Tour and also a wonderful domestique, did well in the time trials. Navi, Beltran, great teammates. Really just a solid all-around team, put together very well and scoring a ton of points. Next we have Nautalia in 5th place. They made a late season charge from 9th or 10th and they went all the way up to 5th, winning 7 stages of the Tour de France and a couple of classics along the way. In my mind, the most entertaining team in the VeloTour this season. Kelvin Moore won 4 races, including 2 stages of the Tour de France. He tried so many attacks all the time. Really one of the big animators of the season. Same could be said for Rodolfo Lucci. He won La Flèche Wallonne and 2 other stages of the Tour de France. Also an extremely aggressive rider. Known for getting a lot of flat tires, he certainly led the peloton in those this season. Josephine Udebaya, the highest scoring female rider, I believe. She won a stage of the Giro d'Italia and the Eschborn Frankfurt Classic, and arguably the strongest domestique throughout the season, setting up so many of those wins for Moore and Lucci. And then Emil Meyer, who won 6 time trials, simply an unbelievable record. I'm sure on the awards ballot he has to be voted the strongest time trialist of the season for the team of the season. There's really no other choice there. And for an 8th round pick, a major steal to get 6 wins like that. Les Robillard won a stage of the Giro, and overall Nautalia had a balanced attack, a number of riders able to win, 5 different riders winning races in fact. Definitely a fun team to watch. Next we have Sismic. They were down in 7th place, I believe, led by the sprinter Miroslav Kostra, who is good in the classics and in the tours. He won a green jersey, and pretty much the leader of the line throughout the season. Carlos Nello, very inconsistent. He won the Trofeo like Walia from the breakaway. He won a stage of Tirreno Adriatico. As the season went on, harder for him to cross the finish line in 1st place. Very aggressive in the Tour de France, he had a number of top 5 stage results, but not able to break through for the win. Glenn Martin's consistent in the Cobblard Classics. He won the Tour of Flanders, top class performance in that race. Lars Evensen, a very good domestique, and he had some shine in the Tour de France, winning a stage from the breakaway. Nearly won the King of the Mountains jersey in that race as well. Tamirzanov and Duverne a little bit disappointing. Following leader had his moments in the breakaways. Overall, a balanced team, just not quite the same firepower as the others. Finally, we have Valnor, interesting team constructed by Jay in his debut season of the VeloTour, led by Superchak Tradivat, the super sprinter, picking up a number of victories throughout the season. Chung Ling Shin, a very consistent stage racer, he was second in the Giro and fourth in the Tour de France. Sofiane Germuni for a second option sprinter was simply fantastic, winning Ghent-Wevelgem and a couple other races as well. Jerome Loiken, very productive early in the season, but fell off towards the end, but still a valuable teammate as a domestique, certainly a balanced rider. Samuel Oudin, signature moment of the season came in Strada Bianca when against all odds he attacked and simply destroyed the rest of the main field. An astonishing performance. I don't think we'll see anything like it in future seasons to come. Simply brilliant. And that concludes our team-by-team breakdown for Season 4 of the VeloTour. We'd love to hear from the managers and the fans what they thought of this season. And I'll close out by telling you how you can vote for the team of the season and some of the other awards. There'll be a link to a Google Sheet in the description of this video. Just go ahead and click on that. You should be able to access it. All ballots will be anonymous, so just follow the instructions and should only take a couple of minutes. I'll do a very short video revealing the results of those votings. And from there, it's all planning for Season 5. And changes for that will be coming in bit by bit, so if you're not already in the Discord server, it's the best place to learn of the announcements. So thanks for following us this season once again. And congratulations to Ali on her win in the VeloTour for the second season in succession. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time for, I guess, Season 5. Peace out.